Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to Pep Talks in the Morning. My name is Anthony Defoe, Deputy Political Leader and co-host of the show today, and I have alongside me my other co-host, Ms. Felicia Holder. Good morning.
Good morning, Anthony. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. It's good to be back after what felt like just a minute. When we last did this show last week, Friday, was it?
Yes.
Yes, I was thinking, we have a nice long weekend ahead. I swear I just blink and we are back.
Yeah, it was like just a couple hours.
It didn't feel like much at all.
Bar humbug. I'm kidding.
No, but seriously. But a lot happened though.
Yes.
A lot took place over this Carnival weekend. So many things to talk about.
There is a lot of things to talk about.
How was yours though? How was your
It
Carnival?
was fairly quiet actually. I opted to stay out of the public space, interacting with the population at large, simply because my peeve is especially the risk of this coronavirus. That's just me, and not being want to be scary and stuff like that. I just think common sense has prevailed on my end, only because we've spoken before, knowing that the system at that our medical system, is not capable of really handling an outbreak of sorts. And I just did not want to be one of these statistics if that was the case.
If it was to happen.
Yes. So,
I took anywhere.
I took in front before in front took me, that's for sure. So, but I'm very happy. So far, we've not heard of anything major taking place directly in the public space where this virus is concerned. Although there has been a couple of reports around, no confirmation though on it, but there has been some chatter of a couple of cases. I think one in Tobago and one somewhere in South. But again, it's not confirmed that it is the coronavirus. So, it's just speculation at this point. But again, we're watching the whole scene very, very closely. And as time goes on, we would be updating you as we get more information on our end.
Carnival Monday, I was actually helping my friends dress because they played mass. I didn't decide. I opted to stay out. And I was listening, this TV was on CNN. And I was, or one of those, and I was listening to a report in Iran because they actually have an outbreak going on there, and the World Health, they were asking the question whether they were going to name it a pandemic or not. Thus far, they are not calling it a pandemic, but they are treating it with all of the precautions that surround a pandemic, which is strict restrictions in terms of where people coming into the country, people exiting the country, visitors, etc. And I mean, as much as we are not, it was literally mass as usual for us. The world is very much, I would say, terrified. The last time I saw or felt this much fear was probably around the Ebola virus. Before that, SARS. I think those are the three. SARS, Corona, and Ebola were the three top, almost pandemics that we have experienced, what I have experienced in my lifetime. But just looking at how the rest of the world, though, is treating it, and the flippancy with which we in Trinidad literally flipped off the virus and said, hey, you know what? We'll test in the airport. Cruise ships come in.
And we're eyeballing it, by the way.
Literally. And I saw people saying on Facebook that they're not going to, 9 out of 10, they would not call this, or they wouldn't consider this a pandemic here in Trinidad. Well, not so much a pandemic, but they wouldn't consider it something to be concerned about until the carnival season has passed, meaning until everybody make their money, all the fats are done, etc. And a couple of people were actually wishing that it came to us. I'm not one of those people.
Neither am I.
Because this is not the time to test our healthcare system. It's not the time to test our disaster preparedness.
Very good.
I think we know, without us being tried and tested, that we are not prepared for a virus like this. I mean, over the Carnival weekend, we had so much misinformation, whether the virus was here, whether it was not. And nothing could have been confirmed. And I mean, that was just the response to one case. Can you imagine if we actually get
several cases dropping the ball all at the same time.
So Trinidad and Tobago, let's be honest, we know we're not ready, and right now, based on the people that we have in positions of power and to be able to mitigate a spread like this, and when I say mitigate, not just send you a text message telling you to wash your hands after a cough,
Yeah.
but mitigate in terms of really lock down an area should this virus reach us. Since we know we don't have that, I don't think we should
We can't even think of encouraging
think
that here.
about
Because we're not having any type of because even the systems that be within Ministry of Health or Minister, for example, I have not heard anything pertaining towards quarantine areas throughout the country or at the medical institutions, indicating of if there were an outbreak, what are we directly to do systematically as citizens? Who do we go to? What are the systems in place to either safeguard ourselves or treat ourselves? It's just a host of different things, and again, that in itself was a deterrent for me to go out into the public. I mean, just to go to the grocery was a problem for me this past week because you just don't know.
Was the coronavirus or were you just lazy? Be honest.
Well, I mean, partially getting a little rest in the midst of all of that was definitely the plus, but my real concern was being exposed to this virus because I just know we are not in a position to deal and treat with it, really and truly, and I refuse to be a statistic in the hospital as one of the citizens having to get affected by this and having to deal with the system in itself that is not capable of dealing with this outbreak. So I just don't want to be in the mix of that. So I said, you know what, I just going to take before in front take me. I stayed at home, watched some Netflix, look at the bands passing by. I mean, we did go to Panorama. I can't say that I was not in public for the entire season, which was very interesting on that occasion. But outside of that, no way. I couldn't. No, girl, you're real good enough. I take my hat off to you. You know what I'm telling you?
Yes, I mean it's no secret. I went to my share of fats. I did 4.5, and I say 4.5 because I got to my first fat that I went to. I actually got there an hour before it finished. The first 2 fats that I went to, my friend called me and said, "Hey, I have an extra ticket. Let's go." And I mean, it was interesting because I'm a mass baby, and I normally when I say a mass baby, I don't play every year, but I played last year. I made a decision not to play this year because I wanted to take this year very seriously in terms of elections and the lead up to it. So I took that decision. But I did go to some flats. My best friend is here. She brought some of her friends from the States to experience it for the first time. And what I did notice, I mean, apart from meeting peppers in the flats, which was so very encouraging, meeting strangers, stopping me to say, hey, we supporting you and we supporting the pepper. And I mean, if you could be in the middle of taking a wine and drinking some alcohol but could stop to talk politics, I think that's a positive sign for us right now.
Well, that's just to show the impact that we've had so far in the public space with people within the population. People are looking on.
Yeah.
And as far as I've heard as well from the said people interacting with, they are very appreciative for the information that we've been putting out into the public space for the past 3 years. Because a lot of the information the population really did not know or was not having access to, and so on. So, it is a breath of fresh air seeing that the people are actually awaking.
Yeah.
They're waking up to their environment and what they're actually in, and actually having the solutions to fix these problems.
Indeed. So we said we would have started with a carnival wrap-up. I think we went straight into it with the coronavirus. There was something else I wanted to talk about though. As we on the carnival wrap-up, Mr. Congratulations to Mr. Iowa George and Kes Differentala on the winning of the road march. Well, stage gone bad. Stage gone bad. Absolute round of applause to you. And the reason we mentioning this on what is a political morning show is because there was some politics behind it, and when I say politics, we know that we have our culture and then we have our subculture, and we have what people typically refer to as the soca mafia. And I remember last year we had Kes with Savannah Grass.
Right.
My absolute. Listen, I love that song so much last year. Until this day, it raises my pores. I tell you, that song, something about it. It ended up winning People's Choice, but I know so many people wanted it for Road March, which was actually taken by Marshall Montano
Right.
and Bungie and I believe Skinny Fabulous with Family.
Mhm.
Both very catchy tunes, but there was something I said about Savannah Grass that
Lyrical content, I think.
the lyrical content and the words of the song, it just
Yeah.
it touched you honestly for a real mass baby. For the people who play mass every year and they see that Savannah, there was something about it. But there were a lot of politics involved, and when I say a lot of politics involved, one thing I noticed as a masquerader, coming up closer to the stage, you can hear a song playing that you want to hear, but then as soon as you reach the stage, the DJs start
they flip
playing. They flip the song
They flip
onto
it.
the song that
They do.
they typically have been pushing for Road March, and
Yeah.
that's been always a question for me. How do you get the people's, because the Road March is supposed to be the song that the people wanted, that
Correct.
they requested,
Not the song the DJ insists on playing.
exactly, and not
Yeah.
the songs that they are influenced to
Yeah.
play. And I noticed that we have now a lot of the artists who sing the songs coming onto the music trucks, kind of more invigilating, or I
Yeah.
would say intimidating to an extent, the DJs to play the music. Because like I say, only time you're hearing what you want to hear, but come stage time, the music switches.
That's very, very true.
And I always wondered, how fair could it be if it is you have the outside influence and not the people's influence? It's supposed to be the people's influence. It's supposed to be the song that for the season the people felt, this is what I want to jump on the road with. And the reason why I'm bringing up this particular this Road March and the fact that Iowa George won is because we had a similar experience this year. A little back and forth, people were saying Marshall, he was really pushing the conch shell song. Conch shell. However you pronounce that. Shell. Time to shell the place. I love that song, I'll be honest, but
Yeah.
it was not, I just did not feel it for Road March. And a lot of other people felt that way too. And I'm mentioning this because I feel for once, finally, the people, at least within the culture, we're seeing them speaking up and speaking out for themselves. Because on Monday, Carnival Monday, like I said, my friends played mass, and on the stage, well, nearing the stage, the DJs were starting to play the Shell song. And the people actually started to chant, no. And they started to chant, for Iowa stage gone bad. And the DJ had no choice
All right.
but to flip and switch
Interesting.
the music. And I brought that up because people, I don't know if you all recognizing it, but you have the power, We literally and
Yeah.
absolutely do have the power. And I don't know if this is a small step in the right direction, but it feels so for me because Iowa George, he did win by a resounding number. He had over 300 plays, whereas Marshall had 95. And I believe absolutely that was the power of the people. That was the people saying, this is what we want, this is what, and they were willing to stand up and chant for it. Imagine if we could do that in front of the parliament.
Very true.
Imagine
Good
if
point.
Imagine if we could do this outside of the culture, outside of the 2 days. And I brought it up because especially for the mass babies like me who could play mass but still be very much political and involved in the politics, it's the same thing. It's standing up for the music that you want, saying what you want to hear, fighting for it. It's the same thing as standing up for better healthcare. It's the same thing as protesting against poor roads. Is the same thing as as fighting, not fighting, but speaking out on crime and issues that are affecting us as Trinbagonians. We don't only want to see this happening on Monday and Tuesday as it pertains to the culture. We want to see it happening all the time. Outside of Carnival, we as a people need to stand up.
No, you win 110% where that is concerned. And we keep preaching that here at the PEP. We've stayed quiet for too long. We've allowed too much to happen, like a runaway train, basically. Especially with people, portfolios, and systems that actually supposed to benefit the people in itself. That we as citizens are supposed to have real betterment, and yet we've not had that for the last 57 years. And touching back to Carnival in itself, my real feeling towards Carnival is such an evolution and development needs to take place where that season is concerned. Because not only that we know it's a great money generator for the country, and for the citizens for that matter, because it's a lot of money being circulated around that time across the board. Whoever selling whatever, whether it be food, drinks, or trinkets or whatever it might be, it's a time you are almost sure that your product is going to be selling. Greater development where Carnival is concerned across the board. You spoke before about DJs basically dictating how.
Hijacking.
Well, yeah, I like that. I like that.
Hijacking the cultural
Yes.
process.
Having a major influence on the songs which is played over the stage. And over the years, yes, I think that there has been some type of is like a mafia almost, really, where they dictate as to who, even before the judges were to ring the last bell, they already knew who was going to win because behind closed doors they're all saying, okay, so we're going to play this guy, or we're going to play this girl, or this song, or whatever the case might be. I think that system in itself, the judging system for the road march, in fact, for just about every category across the board, whether it be big bands, I even made a note here with Peter Minchell, which hats off to you, brother, and it's great to see that you're back into the public space, you're presenting your art. I think Peter Minchell is I would say not the last, but because there are still a couple mass members, mass leaders that are trying to still capture the essence of our mass making and that culture in itself. But I think someone who projects that in a major way, and that has had great influence internationally because his art, his work has gone all over the world, in Brazil, in the US, and in Europe.
It's influenced a lot of
yes, Peter Minchell, I tell you, this is a man, boy, we need to, I don't know.
We need to sit down and extract that creativity that he has and find a way to duplicate it across the board in our culture.
Education is a big part to play with that. We're teaching children in our schools with music classes to play the pan. There's some schools that insist that, most don't, at least in present day. But I do think that it should be something implemented within the education curve in Trinidad and Tobago, at least having that emphasis, because it's part of our culture, really. We have decades to show of what we were able to do. Many different mass leaders, mass band leaders, and so on. Mass makers creating the costumes over the years by the different bands. It's just sad to see that it's basically dwindled away, and right now we're just promoting what is it? Strings, basically.
Strings and beads.
Strings and beads.
And feathers.
Yeah, and that's not even directly made here. We're basically importing almost 70% of the bloody thing. So tell me, where is our art form gone? Where, how are we really trying to put proper development and investment within that? Influencing our young people and even putting it out into the world in a greater sense. I mean, I think even with other events in other countries that may not directly be Caribbean based, and as in the Caribbean Carnival, like in Brazil or other countries around the world, for us to have an incision there so we can highlight what our country is able to produce, what we have produced as our own art, and so on. I don't know. In my mind, I just think that Carnival in itself, we talk about diversifying the economy. If it's done really right, I think Carnival that season could really give oil and gas and we talk about diversification. We can bring a really good dent into the kitty through Carnival, through that season in itself. Right now we're clocking close to, I think it's $300,000 or $400,000. $300 million during that period.
In profit?
well, I'm not sure if it's in profit. I
I
know
need to
that's
know
what we're
profit,
making.
and that's something I would like to research and probably bring up for a next show.
Yeah, I like that.
Because I know we have, every year we hear about the debt by NCC and who's owing who, or the Carnival Commission. I'm not sure, I don't want to call it wrong names. But there have been reports that, Carnival
We're running in a
is
deficit.
losing,
It's losing.
it's losing money, which I don't understand, because you mentioned earlier, it's a time for making money. But only the big businesses are the ones that seem, in my opinion, to be making a lot of money. The grocery stores, which are definitely benefiting from an influx of strangers
Yeah.
coming in. But in terms of money and stuff, I did want to actually talk about the aftermath of Carnival for the players and the revelers, because I was just having unofficial conversations with people. I was asking, how are people affording
That's
to
another
go
story.
to all of these fetes? And I'm saying this as somebody who went 4.5 and didn't pay for any, because I knew people or somebody say, hey, come and go with me, because this year I had honestly planned to just stay out of it. I said, I'm going to take a break. Everything that I went to, somebody said, hey, come and go, or my friends, and they organized for us to go. But I didn't make any big effort to spend any money this Carnival. And still, it was expensive, because you still had to pay for gas, you still had to buy drinks if you're going to a cooler party,
right.
still have to get food after you come home hungry from a boat ride. And I was asking the question because these fetes, they were packed, and I'm seeing a lot of people, and I'm wondering, I know these people are not rich, wealthy, well-off people, and I say that because you can tell there's a difference between somebody who who everything's set aside, and they know after Carnival they save, and there's a difference between the people who knows that after the season I am dead broke. And I was, like I said, I was having informal conversations, and I was surprised to learn just how many people are actually taking loans for Carnival.
Yes.
I didn't know that was a thing, honestly, until
Yes.
recent times. And in preparation for the show yesterday, I went checking out all of the banks and the lending institutions that were giving out loans for this Carnival, and almost every single bank and credit union had a Carnival loan.
Carnival loan,
A
yes.
nice, cheap, come and pay down and get your costume and play mass and buy all your fat tickets. Everybody, all of the lending and banking institutions really capitalized on this Carnival period, and I wouldn't doubt that they are going to report a lot of interest and returns on that.
Of
But
course.
for the people, though, in terms of the aftermath, what is their lives going to be like in terms of debt? Now that you have
Debt.
to repay all of a sudden. And I honestly, again, and I say this as a person who has very much been involved in the culture. I saw somebody make a post, and I agreed with her 100%. I love mass, I love Carnival, I love fetting, I love everything about my culture, but I honestly cannot afford to play this year. And I don't know how many people are being honest with themselves. I personally could not afford to play this year, because I had, and pay this year, I had other goals in mind. I have other things that I have going on, and I didn't want to sacrifice it for an event that I know happens every year. And again, not playing this year was okay for me. It was okay because I know next year is going to be the exact same thing. I mightn't hear Savannah Grass, or I mightn't hear Stage Gone Bad. But trust me, there's going to be another road mat sound. I'm going to have the hearts of the people. We're going to forget what was last
That's
year.
true.
And we're going to have fun. And I'm sorry that I'm saying this post Carnival, but for the people who love the tradition and they love the season, I don't think you should put yourselves in debt for it. Not if you can't, somebody once told me, if you can't buy it twice, you can't afford it. And that's true.
Well, and that is a really good point. But we also have to keep in mind as well, the system the environment that we live in here in Trinidad and Tobago. And I just had this conversation with someone just yesterday, actually. We are in a frustrating environment, and you're working all year or most of the year. You're in traffic. Nothing works basically. You don't have spending power. dollar in your pocket doesn't have real value, and it's just a lot of negativity that one has to deal with on a regular ongoing basis. So the system that be in my mind, I think, has been designed in such a way where, yes, Carnival comes around. I mean, look, banks aren't going to give you a loan to try to secure a home, which is I think, more secured investment, basically, because it's not as if a bank can come and take your costume or your party tickets. If you understand where I'm coming from, that's gone. It's burnt. It's played away. All right, and the individual is now held to task in making that repayment for that. The bank has nothing to come and seize. Whereas for a car, or forget a car, because I look at a car as a liability, but a home, for example, a home, you can't just pick that up and walk away with it. You know what I mean? A bank has the power to be able to secure that investment. So why is it's so easy to get money enough to buy a $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 costume, another $5,000, $10,000 for your drinks and tickets and to plans for the carnival season, whereas you're not able to get a secured loan for a home, for home ownership, because the same payments that you're going to be is how much more extra you're going to be paying a starter home, for example, for $100,000, $200,000, and it's just, you have to sit down and think again. The environment that we're in as citizens, the leaders that we have that is supposed to chart a course for us, for the nation, in bringing betterment, making sense of things, for things to actually work efficiently with great benefit to the citizens and all players involved. Where is that environment? Where are those people? Why are we simply being pacified with the garbage that is fed to us? We talk about this and we continue listing out the issues that we're dealing with, but yet there's really no one that's presently in the system that is directly addressing these things head on. We have major issues psychologically, physically, financially, in every level, in every playing field that we are operating in as citizens in Trinidad and Tobago. We have issues that we're dealing with. Nothing is making sense. And back to the same point again, where you have these banking institutions, whether it be Island Finance or RBC or whomever, is willing and able, months before carnival season reach, and advertising and soliciting their clients, sending promos out, come take a loan with us, no security, or all these different incentives. Why can't that be done for something with greater substance, something that can actually help a citizen long term versus just the short term? How about creating an environment that our citizens have spending power, where they don't have to go to a financial institution? But because, look, the financial institutions on a whole will make money regardless.
They will.
And they will make more money if the population have spending power, and that's the whole thing right there.
I think the thing is that our banks are no longer acting as lending institutions, but more like loan sharks.
Yes.
And especially around Christmas and Carnival time, because that period between October and February, or if Carnival pushes over to March, has to be one of the biggest income earners for banking and lending institutions. And I know of people still repaying Carnival loans.
Yes. From last year.
From the year before that they were playing mass. And just like you said, why don't we see the push for home ownership? Why don't we see the push for land ownership
or small business development and investments?
Investing in a small business. And as much as the banks and the Progressive Empowerment Party government have the chance at office, as much as we would make sure the banks are lending according to fair criteria and investing in the population, people also have to take some kind of responsibility.
Correct.
And understand that it's culture. Don't say that you're borrowing into debt for the culture. That is always there. Every year it's going to be there. We have proven this year that with a possible pandemic called the coronavirus, we still fetting.
Yes.
Trust me, we're going to be fetting again next year. So we have to also, they will come at you, they will They will give you loans for a car. They will give you loans for a costume. They will give you loans for Christmas. But they're not likely to give you loans to open a house. To purchase a house or start your business. So
correct.
you have to think
Correct.
smart as well. You have to think and not make yourselves an easy target, because a bank can offer 10,000 loans. If 4 people take it, they only have 4 people taking in loans.
Very true. Well, on that note, time check. It's now 6:32. We're gonna go to a quick break. Yeah, I know. This morning my tongue is a little heavy.
Mine too. Maybe because we didn't use it since last week Friday
Yay!
on the show.
Exactly. So definitely stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Antel is Trinidad's most reliable and technically experienced ICT company, providers of quality structured cabling, Cat6 data fiber and power cables. We also stock cabling infrastructure basket-type cable trays for server rooms and data centers. Antel also installs and maintains video security systems including cameras, alarms and electronic entrance locks for businesses and residential properties. Call Antel 674-1406 or 783-92.
Trinidad and Tobago is in a crisis. For far too long, our people have been abused and silenced by our politicians and the business elite.
Just look around you. People are losing their jobs. Crime is at an all-time high. Our justice, education and health systems have failed.
We all know the truth behind all that is wrong in our country. Corruption is destroying us. Billions of our dollars are being looted by a small group of business people that use our politicians to divide and distract us,
so they can take what they want, leaving us with no hope for a better country.
All of this is because we've never had leaders who seek the interests of the citizenry as their first priority.
I am here because I'm not taking it anymore.
I am here because I am not taking it anymore.
I am fed up of politics as it is in Trinidad and Tobago.
It is time we elect leaders with the backbone and the love of our people to go after the corrupt, evil elements in our country, hell-bent on serving their own pockets while we suffer.
And it is time that we as a nation take a collective stand against wrongdoing.
So we are making a plea to the nation to rally behind us.
Because our freedom of speech is being threatened by those who don't want us speaking out on these issues.
A man that I greatly respect is one of those leaders fighting for a better country. His name is Philip Edward Alexander, and he has bravely challenged the people and institutions that are destroying our nation.
To date, he has been threatened with 5 lawsuits for having the courage to ask state agency UDCOT on why the renovations of the President's house cost $89 million.
When experts in the field have estimated that that job should have never crossed 20 million.
Where did the rest of our money go?
We refuse to stand by and allow any agency to use our courts to try and silence and punish Philip or any other citizen of our country for trying to seek the truth.
If you're fed up of corruption and want to be a part of real change, support Philip and the Progressive Empowerment Party in this fight.
This fight is not for him or us to bear alone.
It is a fight for you, our loved ones and our friends.
It is a fight for the future of our country.
You can help by making a contribution to Philip's legal fees and help him and PEP expose the truth and shine light over the darkness of corruption. Go to our website at peptt.com, click on donate and see all the ways you can pitch in.
There is hope. Our country can be saved, but we all need to stand together. My name is Felicia Holder, Chairman of the Progressive Empowerment Party, and I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support.
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 I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
And we're back, and we have a guest in studio joining us today, Natalia Moore, the head of our youth arm. Welcome to Pep Talks, Natalia.
Good morning, and thanks for having me here.
Good morning,
Very
Natalia.
picky on a morning where it's still dark. Good morning and welcome. As you know, we're talking Carnival wrap-up. We just came out of the Carnival period, and a lot happened, and something Anthony and I were about to touch on when we came back from the break was the whole rise and fall of euphoria that surrounds Carnival. I think there's a build-up that leads from Christmas into Carnival where people are like, you know what? This country is messed up. We are stressed. We are tired. We are going to fete until the last drop. We're going to spend money. We're going to drink. We're going to smoke. We're going to lime. We're going to go to the beach. We're going to go to every fun that we could go to. We collect all of our bands and display it for everybody. And then the same thing that happens every year happens. Carnival ends. Ash Wednesday reaches. And we are back to the same old, same old. Not that it ever stopped, because during the Carnival period, as much as people were not paying attention, a lot of things were happening on the side of politics, on the side of news, crime, etc. It still happened, but people just were not paying as much attention to it. But you get a sense of, people, you see the whole drop.
It's almost like a cycle, a never-ending cycle.
It is a never-ending cycle. And people, they say they use Carnival as a distraction from the stress of living in this country, and I understand it. When you're in a party and you're fetting and you're free, but me now that I'm in politics, when I'm in a party and I'm fetting, I'm actually looking around and taking in all of the things around me and analyzing it through a political lens. I'm looking at the fact that people are there drinking themselves into a stupor, most likely to forget the fact that is alone paying for this alcohol that they're buying, or most likely trying to forget the fact that they're stressed out at work, or they have a job that barely covering their mortgage, or not their mortgage for a lot of people, but their rent. And we were speaking about people who literally partying themselves into debt and now have to face the aftermath of repaying the loan sharks, as they are now starting to seem like, after the whole euphoria and bacchanal of Carnival. And we brought you in today, Natalia, because I know you did 2 videos highlighting Carnival, the last one being to culture or not to culture, and I thought it was so adequate, so pertinent to the conversation today, and just wanted to open up the microphone for you now to share your Carnival experience, particularly as a young person, and not just a young person, but a youth who is very much politically aware and inclined to everything that is happening in our country.
First of all, I have to ask you, Felicia, what Carnival? Because I did nothing of the sorts this Carnival. I'm going to be honest here, I worked most of the Carnival. I don't know about you all, but I worked. If I wasn't working, I was at a pep meeting on Saturday, Kiddies Carnival. I did a lot of things that did not pertain to Carnival. I know about these things because, I watched it after, I rewatched it after, and that's how I know these things happen. And again, with the euphoria, this is like this season where suicide is the easiest, and I say that because people literally drink themselves into debt, as you said before. So it's like people saying, okay, I don't mean to commit suicide, but with all the stress that builds up, I'm releasing it, and it just happens, right? I don't know if you classify that as an easy suicide, but people usually don't want to commit suicide, but it gives them like an easy way out.
In terms of what? When you say, you mean suicide gives people an easy way out? Well, you are seeing a lot of people not a lot, I don't know if to use that term, but people are taking their lives, particularly in domestic violence cases, where you have men killing or injuring their parties and then injuring or killing themselves.
But it's easier to do it around Carnival time because you're not aware that you're doing it, but you're doing it. Because, I'm drinking of this source and I'm trying to get out all the frustration, because this country isn't easy to live in. You're getting out all that frustration, and it happens. It's like I don't want to do something, but at the same time it's in my head, so I'm not doing it, but at the same time I'm doing it. It doesn't make sense that way.
That's deep.
It's very deep, but I mean, if I had to, there were a lot of road accidents over the Carnival. We had 6 actually, and I wouldn't classify that as suicide, but you are seeing people taking very reckless and crazy decisions to drive drunk from parties. I remember we were speaking about that Cara beach event. I was so happy to hear that nothing happened, because again, I'm not one of those people who are going to say I wish this happens to teach them a lesson kind of thing. I actually don't want anybody to become a lesson. But aside from that, we did have 6 people dying in road accidents over the Carnival period, because you're drinking and you're carefree and you're not paying attention, and you're getting into accidents. And again, it's a downside to the culture that we don't really acknowledge and pay attention to, and we get texts telling us to drive safer, but the reality is a text not going to stop somebody who has had one too many in a fest.
Are you even going to read that text message?
and we don't really have a culture of of get your buddy to drive instead of you. I remember one of the greatest things that we had here that is now gone. Uber was supposed to be the savior of people driving home drunk from fest. I know we have some substitutes that are not as reliable. I have tried them myself and had to wait a little period before they came. But the things that's supposed to promote safer behavior, I know it's not almost non-existent during Carnival. We hear these safety tips, etc., but is it really enough to prevent the road carnage that we saw over the weekend? So in terms of that, I get you when you say people are less, well, their inhibitions are lower, and we're taking very reckless and crazy decisions to do things that end up taking our lives. But you said you weren't involved in the Carnival, but can you tell us why, especially as a young person?
You're supposed to be bacchanal.
What? No, Carnival to me means culture, and well, I did partake in Carnival, and I said that I did because I've never been, and for the first time I said, let's see what this is about. Is this really culture? Is this a next panty and bra show down Piccadilly Greens up to the Savannah? So I went there and I saw it and I took it in, and I saw these people that came from Grand River. I don't know where Grand River is. If you tell me to point that out on a map, I'll be like, where is that? And they came down with their whips and they're doing these things, and you know when they take the whip and they lash it in your hair and you hear this crack, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And they tell you the story of the boy man and the boy woman. It's amazing. Oh my god, just sitting down there watching that unfold in front of your eyes, it's like, okay, this is culture. This is what I'm supposed to be doing on Carnival, but I'm not. And it's like, okay. And another thing is like, Carnival to me, I don't know, right? Some music, it's not all soca songs, but some soca songs just don't make sense to me.
A lot of them. A lot of them. Take away the beats, take away the bass, take away the instrumentals, and you realize that you're really just hearing shell.
Yeah.
Sorry, Marshall. Still love your music. Go ahead.
Right, and one of the greatest story, right? I went a boat ride, and for the whole 2 hours on that boat, I was on my phone reading a book. So it brings us back to, what am I going to do in Carnival?
Natalia is the typical person who is just like, I'm having none of it.
My goodness, you were reading a book in a boat fete?
Yes, I was reading a book.
Never to take you nowhere.
We know who's not coming to fete with us.
I'm kidding. No, but that is some really good pointers that you brought. I just wanted to touch real quick on what you were saying before with the being able to drive back and forth, being intoxicated and that kind of thing. If we did have a public system, transportation system that was efficient and made sense, instead of having to hike the price up, as we had said on the last show, where they almost double the pricing, Instead of doing that, why not create new routes to fetes, for example, or party area, or to the savannah, or wherever these places are having large gathering of people, where an event is taking place, or a celebration, or a feature within the carnival period, and having buses. So again, people can afford to now leave your car home. You can be as intoxicated as you possibly want. You don't have to worry about even assigning a person to drive for you, because I mean, the driver sometimes just want to take a little drink too.
Yeah.
You understand? Everybody going out of line. But again, we don't have any systems that works. We don't have anyone that's forward thinking or being proactive in that sense.
So
but
unfortunately, you'll be 2 hours late to that fete.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, if you had to
exactly.
Wait, if you had to wait.
If you reach the fete at all on the same day that you was planning to go. But anyway, I'm sorry for taking that time from you.
No. So
you made a decision to stay.
I made a conscious decision just to stay home and then work for Carnival Monday and Tuesday. It didn't affect me anyway. I met a lot of foreigners, a lot of people who told me their stories. And like, I met this guy in particular who he went to Calypso Monarch, and he said he went to Soca Monarch also, and he said, why is it so dead? And this is his first time in Trinidad and Tobago, and he said, why is it so dead? Why doesn't it have anybody there? He said the crowd was less than, he said it was less than 100 people.
Wow. And this was the finals.
Yeah.
Well, Terry Lyons, and that's something I wanted to bring in. Terry Lyons, who actually won the Calypso Monarch this year. Her acceptance speech was actually her speaking out on the decline of the Calypso culture. And she said, particularly as a young person, she's not going to be quiet about it, because she is seeing how the art form is being impacted. And I say hats off to you, Terry, because I mean, you're here, you're young, you're fighting up in the system. Not many people are involved in Calypso, even pay attention to it anymore. For me, I'm personally turned off by how it has been hijacked by politics and racist division, that crow madness that happened last week, that I absolutely refuse to bring onto this program, was testament to it, that our culture is, if that was supposed to be reflective of our culture, then we are a doomed people, because that was only meant to create and divide and cause confusion. And you saw it happen on Facebook. From one song, there were a lot of back and forth and fighting, and Indian versus African, and that's not what culture is supposed to be about. Culture is supposed to bring the people together, unite them, not divide them further, not divide them around political lines. We're already divided across the rest of the year. Why does it have to happen during Carnival? And Terry, hats off to you, like I said, for raising the issue that our Calypso culture is really poor as it is right now, and a lot more needs to be done. Lemma McLeod Wilkinson, our head of the women's arm, she actually spoke out from the position of being also a deputy political leader on the fact that tourism and culture should go hand in hand, because what are you promoting in tourism if not our culture? And for a foreigner to come here and say there are only 100 people in the crowd, that's terrible. Calypso should be something that I want to listen to. Calypso should be something that you don't just get a comp to go on it, and you should want to purchase a ticket to go and hear. Calypso is supposed to be a storytelling form about and intertwined with our culture, and it's not like that anymore.
But do I really want to go to a Calypso competition, and only hear political and social commentary?
Exactly, and that's another thing. Nobody wants to hear that, particularly commentary that is not uniting. It's commentary that is subliminally telling you, and not even just subliminally, overtly telling you, vote for this party or vote for that party, or that party thief and this one didn't thief. I really wish we should have really pushed Philip to go and do that Calypso, because nothing to work. Nothing to work in this country.
Well, it all boils down, I think it comes back down to lyrical content and what we've actually allowed into the public space, what we've accepted as a population, or as an audience, where this is concerned, because it comes right back down to not just the lyrical content, even as we were saying earlier, where our presentation of mass is concerned. The skill of mass making, And that entire dynamic, that is a storytelling all by itself. And how are we not really projecting that on a greater scale internationally, not even just locally, although locally definitely we have to incorporate that, in my mind, a lot more than we have over the years. I mean, a few decades ago, I think it was more incorporated within society and within the fabric of the society in itself, from every age level, people being involved in the whole cultural aspect of Carnival here in Trinidad and Tobago. But as time went on, I think it was commercialized way too much, and they started selling sex and lust versus art. You know what I mean? And I think that's our misstep. The balance where that is concerned is the proportion has gone to the negative, I would say, and again is why we are making things so easy to import whatever costumes, and our artists, our calypsonians are not taking real time to bring real substance in their lyrical content. It's all almost the same, and it's just about, again, like you said, Felicia, is giving influence on saying, okay, well, if it's going to be a political script within that song, it's go vote for Afro or vote for Indo, or who thief more from who thief less, again to try to influence the minds of the people. And no one says, we know that we use music as a tool in bringing a lot of influence, but still, what type of influence are we actually presenting?
Which brings me back to the point that most people don't get. Young people aren't interested in Afro, Indian, who thief less, who thief more. The point is, everybody thief. At the end of the day, it can't be less evil, more evil, because at the end of the day, you're still evil. That word still appears in that sentence. So why try to divide the people that you really need to come together? Do we only come together when it's Carnival? Do we only come together when a big, massive, national disaster is going to happen to Trinidad and Tobago? Why only then do we choose to come together as one? Which brings us back to the point of why only for Carnival do we bring culture into the picture? Culture is supposed to be all year round. Many radio stations, they only play dancehall for like the rest of the year. Christmas in July, Christmas, Carnival is when we actually hear soca parang or Carnival or soca music. Why is that? In those in-between period, we mostly hear dancehall, we mostly hear Americanized music, right?
Yeah.
It's not that I'm against it. No, I'm not. It's just why we only promote our culture, our music at those particular times of the year.
That's true.
Very good point.
Very good.
And I would also say too, you being the head of youth, that's a huge task that you have on your shoulders, because I know the job is to bring greater influence towards our young people. And being able for them to have critical minds and scrutinize things for their best interests as a whole. I know that job is a mountain ahead of you, but it is something that we have to put our best foot forward and actually bring into, because the youths are the ones who are going to control our nation. Yeah. That's our future right there, is the youths, and we must have a heavier influence where the youths are concerned in trying to shape their minds and shape the way that they think. Not as what to think, but really how to think, and I mean,
it's a shame you have to teach people how to think, or
well,
get their mind into that road.
Influence, yeah. It's all influence, and it's what we've put into the public space.
As a society, we shouldn't be at that level.
Very true.
It's unacceptable.
Very true. And the year 2020, no less. With all this technology, all this information. I think that's one fortunate reason why the youths aren't as they're not with that same mentality as you would find with the grassroots or the older heads. Because they're being exposed and with a lot more information, they're having a little more way of having critical thinking. Which is a good thing, but still they're on the ground in Trinidad and Tobago, within the society and the fabric in itself, as to what they see is normal and what they see is acceptable, such as our leaders not being held accountable for certain things. You find that the young people now take that chance and risk in in going down that same road. And okay, well, if they can do it, someone who is supposed to be on top, like the Prime Minister or someone within a public office that is holding a top portfolio, they're seeing that they're doing misbehavior in public office or what have you, and not being held accountable for it. That sends a message in my mind.
It does. And having discussions with young people, you get the sense that they believe crime pays.
Exactly.
And they believe, you know what, if they can do it at the top,
who are them?
What is stopping me at the bottom? And
Correct.
I think thankfully we have youths like Natalia and others who are involved in our youth who want to see a better Trinidad and Tobago. And you know, like-minded and youths who think along those lines, we welcome you to come on board, and I'm sure Natalia would leave her information for you to contact her. But for the others, I know they are looking at a life in Trinidad that the older generation has used and abused and taken advantage of, and they are now finding they're young and they're thinking quick, they're finding quicker ways to get to where or go along the bad path that the others would have set before them. And that's not a culture that we want to develop in the country. We don't want youths to think that that's the only way, or get rich quick, and it's a mentality that we are cultivating, whether knowingly or not, but it's one that we have to fight against, because there are ways to make the country work. And I mean, the only reason we're sitting down here in front of you today is because we believe there is a better Trinidad and Tobago, and we believe that we have a responsibility, again, together with the youth, to lay the foundation for a better Trinidad and Tobago. And it has to, I mean, if no time now, it has to be now. Definitely.
There is no other time than
there
the
is
present.
no other time better than the present. Natalia, you have the mic. Anything else you want to add from the youth arm? By the way, Natalia is going to have her own segment coming not this Friday, next week Friday. This is the first test of her being on. So Natalia, you have to get accustomed with holding your own and having your own conversation, bringing on your own guests, etc. But the youth corner is going to be very pivotal and important to this program that we're building, because like you rightfully said, the youths are not seeing any real examples of leadership and of people wanting to change the cesspit that we live in. So we have to do it ourselves, and I love the fact that you're here this morning at 6:30 setting the example for the others, letting them know that you're willing to stand up for the changes that you want to see in your country.
Yeah, well, I am so excited about that. I'm so excited to be bringing my voice to the young people of Trinidad and Tobago, especially with the ideas and with the foundation laid by the Progressive Empowerment Party. You know, we have a lot of plans and a lot of policies for the youths, and we know we can get them out there. We know that this is our time now. The future is young. The future is you.
I love that.
Well said. You go, girl.
Please, director, producer, the future is young, the future is you. I love it.
Yeah.
Natalia, darling, thank you very much for joining us this morning. It is 7 a.m. We're going to take a quick break and come back with an interview.
Yes, we're going to have a call-in interview, so don't go anywhere, Trinidad and Tobago. We'll be right back.
Despite the security and convenience advantages offered, many have opted out of the formal banking sector and have chosen instead less traditional means of saving their money. Due in no small part to what some have termed rapacious and usurious fees and rates, the public find themselves in a position where deposits of funds in the banks lead to a net loss at the end of the year, making no sense to anyone at all. The traditional relationship is supposed to be one built on depositors' funds being made available to the banks, so that the banks could make those funds available through credit to small businesses to stimulate development and growth. This would have the effect of buoying the economy and creating jobs, a net win for everyone. But that is not what occurs right now. The absence of banking service regulations creates an environment where the banks could do as they pretty much damn well please, leading to where we are today, money warehousing. The Progressive Empowerment Party advocates for strong financial service regulations, including setting and determining banks' lending and deposit fees, so as to create an environment where the banks can continue to earn fantastic profits as they do right now, and also protect depositors from overzealous profiteering banks. Deposit fees, cash checking fees, over-the-counter fees, ATM fees. We're one step away from banks charging appearance fees. It is ridiculous, and someone has to speak about it. The public does not know who to turn to. The Financial Services Ombudsman seems to be a myth. The central bank governor and the Minister of Finance don't seem to understand whose responsibility it is to protect depositors and customers from ridiculous fees run amok. So the Progressive Empowerment Party will. We are engaging this conversation with the public, hoping to get the banks and those in government presently to do their jobs. If not, an election is around the corner. Vote the Progressive Empowerment Party into office, and we will ensure that while the banks are free to make all the profits they want, they will do so servicing and respecting the customers, paying interest on depositors' funds that they use to generate interest for themselves through lending credit, and not have to rely on advantageous fees, leaking funds from customers' accounts.
What do you call it when a bunch of companies collude to set prices, fix markets, close off competition, capture regulators, and bribe politicians?
Another issue contributing to this lack of respect and service is the closed-off nature of our financial services sector and the lack of real competition among the banks. The Progressive Empowerment Party also advocates for an open market where banking and financial services are concerned. We would create an environment that invites international competition to help bring new, vibrant stimulation into the economy, creating an environment where all banks now have to compete for depositors' funds, creating the environment that we're looking for. I am Philip Edward Alexander, and this has been 3 minutes to a better Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, and we are back. So yes, once again, welcome to Pep Talks in the Morning. It's myself, Anthony Dufu, alongside Felicia Hola. Right about now, we do have a call-in from a Riyad Mohammed. He's an associate with the farming industry. In fact, morning Riyad.
Hey, morning Anthony, how you doing? Morning Trinidad and Tobago.
Nice.
Morning, Riyad.
Are we hearing him all right there, Director? Yes?
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. So what's going on, Riyad? Again, tell the population who you are and what you're about.
Okay, so my name is Riyad Mohammed. I'm 29 years old. I am a full-time cantaloupe and honeydew farmer. I am also a agriculture consultant in Trinidad and Tobago, a national consultant. I am an educator in the food production sector with regard to sustainable food production. I am the lead consultant of our business Tropical Agriculture Consultancy Services. I'm also the director of Exotic Pets Plus Veterinary Clinic, and I'm a director of La Lisco Dairy Goat Products.
Wow.
And I'm in the country as well.
What a portfolio there,
What
brother.
do you not do?
What a portfolio. And Trinidad and Tobago, so you have a clear idea as to, this is someone who has an idea as to what is actually happening within the agriculture sector. So I am very much looking forward in hearing what you have to put on the table for us here today, because we've always wanted to put some major emphasis on the agriculture sector, how deficient it is and what the farmers are dealing with on an ongoing basis from administration to administration, why we have not had the level of development within that sector, as well as it being a greater contributor towards our GDP. And being able to be self-sufficient in feeding our population, being food independent. I know you have a lot to talk about where that is concerned. So, Felicity, do you have anything you would like to ask?
Well,
Yes, go ahead, Felicia.
I see you posting a lot on Facebook, and I was actually just typing this question to save to ask in the end, but I'll ask it now because I know you're very vocal on food production and agriculture, and you ask a lot of questions, particularly of our food ministry as it is right now. And my question to you is, what do you want to see? Holding all of these portfolios, what would you like to see and what do you want to see for the food production and agriculture division of Trinidad and Tobago?
Okay, that's actually a simple question to answer, Felicia. What I want to see as a consultant and as a youth of the nation, as a resident and a citizen of the nation, is for the farmers of the country to produce food in a sustainable and safe manner so that we have a healthy population. That's simply it. Yeah?
I mean, you can't get any simple and more real than that, because isn't that the point of food production and having an agricultural ministry? But as of right now, what is happening in the food food production sector?
Okay, so usually when we talk about the food production sector, we think about two categories of sectors, the livestock sector and the crop production sector. Alright, so if you want to dive into the harder sector, which is the livestock sector, I have spoken to a few farmers and they have given me some points to speak on the program this morning. Some of the problems that farmers face on the ground in the livestock sector, one of them is pretty larceny, with regards to people coming and stealing their livestock. You know, when somebody steals an animal, it takes so much effort and resources to get that animal to that stage. It's such an important genetic resource that we can't afford to lose it. You know, if you could buy 100 cows in the agri shop Monday, they can buy 100 cow Monday. You understand?
True.
You're right. So it's not as simple as losing short crops or long-term crops. However, it's not something to compare. Theft is theft. But in the livestock sector, that's one of the major problems we have in the sector. And while speaking to the ministry and a few other personnel, we have found that the resources provided to those personnel are not there and are being diminished as time goes along. So they can't perform their jobs properly. For instance, they have a lack of functional vehicles and they have to share vehicles between different states within the country. So we have that problem as just one of the issues that affect the livestock sector.
Okay.
Understand?
Yes.
That is some serious stuff you're talking there. Because again, where I think agriculture has been there's a heavy pot in the pie for agriculture where investment is not investment, but where the budget is concerned. For these state bodies and stuff. The question is where is that money going? Why are we not having the tools for these office holders or the people who are in charge of these portfolios to be able to have the tools? You know what I mean? To work to help you, the farmer, with the issues that you're faced with, such as having vehicles to be able to go from one point to the other to do proper investigation and so on.
And in terms of the crops, what are some of the issues facing you there?
Well, with crop farmers, we find most of them complain not with the issue of production, because we have very good farmers in terms of their skill set and knowledge and experience and training. So production is not the issue in the crop industry. In my eyes, it's a marketing issue, or marketing strategy issue, where we have so much farmers producing a few types of crops at the same time, and there are gluts in the market at times, and sometimes deficiencies or shortages at times as well. So it's really a marketing issue and a control of production issue.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because we had Akil Camps, the head of our North Hub, and he's also a farmer. I don't know if to say part-time, but he does some farming. I know he recently had some celery that actually was just going to waste because there was a surplus of celery on the market. And as a farmer, it must be really hard to know that you put all of that work and effort into to bring in to growing and keeping pests and all of this off of your crops, only to come in the end and not be able to sell your product that you made so much investment in. And I'm bringing in the Progressive Empowerment Party's approach to food production here, because it is almost impossible for me to understand that in 2020 we have an agricultural ministry that not only does not know what the people consuming, because clearly we don't know, because if we did, we know we have 800 farmers in the country, we would make sure that we won't have all 800 planting celery.
Exactly.
And it is almost impossible for me to understand that at this point we have not yet been able to predict,
properly manage and organize.
Exactly. And grow crops based on consumption data.
Correct.
Because we have that what you were explaining to me about having your crops and then not having a deficiency or a surplus. It's mind-boggling, because there are seasons for things. There are seasons. You're not gonna. We won't want all 800 farmers doing the same thing. So now, why not have an organized system where we have a certain number of farmers doing this and a certain number of farmers growing that, and give them the support to do that? Because I am almost positive that we can, or there's a division that can be set up if it is not already established, to monitor consumption patterns throughout the country.
Well, right now, within the Progressive Empowerment Party, we've been spearheading a program which we call PEP Farms. That in itself is a couple models that's incorporated in that, because we know that there are a lot of farmers that's been seeking lands to be able to plant, and they're not getting access to those lands. Who's getting the access to it is the corporate class being able to build malls on fertile agricultural land. Where we don't approve of that at all. But in the same breath, we are on the Progressive Empowerment Party's end actually doing test models where farming is concerned, as well as trying to accumulate as much information as far as consumption data is concerned, and in the same breath as well, trying to identify lands across the country. Obviously, in certain parts of the country, you're going to have different soil types and so on, which you would have certain crops that would be more robust in that soil type versus others. It's a holistic approach that we're looking at, and with the Farming Association and people within the industry in itself, like you and your peers, is why we want to be able to have that dialogue with you, because again, we keep saying we don't want to shove anything down anybody's throat, but we do want all the interest players to all have a voice and all have their 2 cents to put into the mix, so this way we are able to decipher and actually have everyone that has interest in developing the sector, for us to have a clear way to chart ourselves forward for development. Because again, consumption data is a key part of it. We simply need to know exactly what the population is consuming, in what proportions, and from there, again, information is key, is the only way we are able to systematically put ourselves in a better place where food independence is concerned.
Taking place,
Yes.
Anthony, I must say that I'm not sure if you are aware, but the data collecting bodies, when they execute their tasks, I am very sure, and I have seen it myself, that they have not collected the proper data from the proper people. Hence, when we're doing budget guesstimations,
I like
you
that.
report wrong data and you allocate the wrong amounts of money in the wrong sectors because of the bad data that you collect.
Yes.
So, if anybody could tell me how much farmers we have in Trinidad, they will say, all right, 13,000 farmers, no problem. But as registered farmers, how much farmers are not registered?
Good point. Very good point.
Yeah.
And it's for us to also develop the system to encourage farmers who are not registered to be registered.
To get on board, yeah.
Exactly.
Is there a hindrance right now for unregistered farmers to get registered?
Yes. So one of the hindrances are the awarding of land leases of farmers that use quoted land to plant. Yes. So what that means ideally is they use land to plant, so they do feed us. However, they can't be registered farmers because the land are not yet on their names or on their names at all.
Where there's any approvals for them to be able to use
any
the land.
approvals,
Right.
or even within trying to get that land on their names, the process takes years. Some of them waiting 10 or 15 years now for that to happen.
And that's to show the inefficiency of the system in itself.
Correct. So without that title on your name, you can't apply for your general farmer's badge from the Ministry of Agriculture. You can't access the incentives. You can't access so many things. So you feel like an outsider, but you feel in the population that doesn't want to pay the price of food. The cost of inputs are very high. There are poor marketing arrangements. And then you are thinking about doing economies of scale in terms of increasing production, but for what? Yeah?
Very good points. Very, very good points, my friend.
We have I was flying over Trinidad from a flight between Trinidad and Tobago, and one of the things that I was just in awe at was just how much land this country has. And when I say how much land, we have a lot.
Unused.
A lot of land. Trinidad is actually underpopulated in comparison to the land mass that we occupy. Yeah? It's just bad spatial planning. But when you look at it in terms of residential, commercial versus agricultural space, we have enough to be able to do all. And the fact that we have not yet regulated these farmers in terms of giving them the access to state lands as they should have, because if you're growing food for the nation, it should only be right that you have access to land to grow your product. I mean, we're not expecting you to grow it in a bucket in the yard. We're expecting you to feed a nation. And at this point, I think we have to accept that our agriculture minister, past and present, have failed, because I'm not seeing any real and proactive approach. And Clarence Rambra, that's who he is. I mean, I know they say he's a very brilliant man, but the things that I had expected him to bring to agriculture with all of his knowledge, I'm not seeing. And the fact that we have farmers still complaining about issues that plagued us 10 years ago.
50 years ago, yeah.
Exactly. Is telling of a system that is very much antiquated, that is very much in need of an overhaul. And I can't imagine the frustration for farmers knowing the solutions, because it's usually the people on the ground who know the solutions, and not being able to get these solutions implemented from a policy and executive level. Yeah. And that's what we need right now. We need people who can actually action these things, because it's not brand new knowledge that unregistered farmers have no access to proper land. It's not brand new knowledge that it is difficult to get a lease in your name. It's not brand new knowledge that the marketing of products and data consumption is poor. These are things that I knew, and you as farmers, I'm sure, know a long time. And you're probably very frustrated seeing and knowing the answers and not seeing it implemented.
Yeah. So Felicia, what I call that, my tagline for that is a major disconnect between the educating bodies, the public sector, and the private sector. What I mean by that is, we have so many educating bodies pushing out so many graduates, but where do their theses go? In the library bookshelf.
Yep.
Alright? We have the public sector. Now they within themselves have their own problems, however they lack so many resources to execute their jobs properly. And then we have the private sector who needs information from the public sector and educating bodies, but there is no communicating body between both. Yeah? So everybody works in isolation on their own and always fighting up.
Yeah, everybody's in their own little silos, like you said, without the line of communication, which is very, very important for a level of efficiency to take place. Because information is key. With information, you're able to make better decisions. We preach that all the time. It's all about information. So, you know, everything that you're talking about, we have looked into. We are aware of these things, and we have been, over the last 3 years, actively trying to develop programs and systems and policies that can address these things in real time. Again, is a matter of us being able to have the support of the people and the invested interest holders within the industry to really see what we are proposing and for us ourselves to actually have the time to sit back and listen to the population themselves and farmers and so on like yourself, in knowing exactly what's going on the ground, in coming up with proper solutions and moving our country and industry forward. Because we are saying, the first goal for us with a Progressive Empowerment Party administration would be, yes, to be food independent, being able to feed our population, but we also want to create an environment where we can now develop our exports to around the world, and that can make in fact that could probably substitute our oil industry altogether, because it's $1 billion industry. Food is what we're talking about, and we have some of the best grown foods here in Trinidad and Tobago, and we've been boasted to have the best sugar, best honey, best cocoa, and the list goes on and on. As you know, why haven't we not over the years, over the decades, put major emphasis on this and developed this on an international scale for export? Again, it's questions that simply fell onto deaf ears, and we are saying here, the Progressive Empowerment Party, that we are here to listen, and we are here to make real motions forward, and we want you to hold us to that, because again, we're not here just for fun and games. Yeah, exactly. We do want to bring people together and forge this thing forward for a betterment of the population.
What I think is the problem, Anthony, is that every governing body thinks about a 5-year regime or 5-year plan.
Yes.
And that is...
There's no long-term plan like a 20-year or a 50-year plan for the country. Everybody is thinking 5 years, and in reality, really 3 years. Because the first year don't work, and the last year you are working.
Very true.
So the middle 3. But that's not longevity, and that wouldn't help the country. Long-term.
And I'm glad that you raised that point, because particularly in the farming industry, and Anthony, you mentioned it earlier with the exports, that is something that I would really love to see Trinidad and Tobago take seriously.
Yes.
And I know it is an income generator like no other. Right now, our mangoes right now could be earning us so much money on the foreign market.
Our mangoes? What about our avocados?
Yes.
Guacamole is a huge thing globally right now, and you have like Mexico that's making over $1 billion a year on avocados alone.
Riyadh, in terms of the Farmers Association, what is your involvement so far, or how involved are you in the export industry?
Up till last night, I was actually speaking to a new exporter, and I actually channel all my clients with top quality produce in her business, and we get it around the world, because the public sector doesn't seem to have it, on the wraps. So we have to take matters into our own hands, register, do the quality control checks, get your permits, and ship food out.
And that's actually something I'm noticing, because I know of people individually who are exporting their produce, and even the byproducts of their produce. So Trinidad made chocolate, they are exporting it, and I'm wondering, how are these private bodies and these small businesses able to do it on this small scale? Yet we as a nation, as a people can't do it together. Why is it that as a body, as a public sector, we can't have an agriculture division within the Ministry of Agriculture that is just solely responsible for pushing our products out to the world? Why don't we have that? And why isn't it? I mean, because I encourage people to do their own thing, but I am sure the reality is that people have to do their own thing because they don't have the support.
Well, I think I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in on this. I like what you just said there, Felicia. But I don't even think that it needs to lie within the Ministry of Agriculture, what have you, in having that body there. You have an ambassador that represents Trinidad and Tobago in many different countries around the world. What is his job? Why is he not pushing?
Why is he not literally taking a fruit basket filled with cocoa, avocado, mango, cereals, cherries, plum, everything that we make here locally that can be and will be appreciated on a global market.
Yes.
We have exported Carnival. And when I say no, we haven't even exported Carnival. People have seen what we do in Carnival.
And they've copied
copied it and made it better. Why
Correct.
can't we take what we have here and market it to the rest of the world? And we're falling really short on that in many areas, but in food production and in exporting food, I think we are missing out on critical opportunities as it is right now.
Very much. Riyadh, we are almost out of time for your segment, but
we talk a lot, so we want to open the space for you now to give your anything else you want to add, any thoughts, any comments, any suggestions. We're here listening.
With regards to help our livestock sector, now, I'm not sure if you guys know, but we don't make feeds in Trinidad in terms of concentrate feeds. We mix them. Hence, we import the raw materials. What I'm suggesting to some of the livestock farmers here is to produce their own fodder production systems of fodder budgeting plans, especially for the ruminant farmers, the sheep, the goats, and the cattle. You know, to have that resource there to help buffer your feed cost. Because feed cost could be as high as up to 70% of your total production cost. So that's one of the strategies we use to help in ruminant production. Remember, the animal takes a while to grow and put on that muscle mass or to prepare itself for milk.
Right.
So feeding that proper fodder in the correct ratios in terms of legumes and grasses will give you that desired output at almost no cost. You understand?
All
so that is one of the mitigation measures we could use for the livestock sector. With regards to attaining genetic stock, that was another problem that we had in this country, because each government station has more or less the same genetic stock, and now you are seeing the government stations being privatized or partly privatized. So where will the farmers get genetic stock now? Unless, just like the export situation, they have to do it privately, which is so very costly. You realize the price of sheep and goat fresh meat on the side of the highway?
Yeah.
$35 to $40 a pound. You know why? Because the cost of production inputs is so high. Every single thing the farmer has to pay so much money for. You know, so just better management of how we do things could reduce the cost of food for the consumer and still ensure that the farmer makes a fair and honest living.
Right.
And let them stay as a full-time farmer. Because most farmers now are leaving their fields because they're just so frustrated. You know, their husband and wife quarreling with them, the family depend on them for so much.
Yeah.
But farming in Trinidad is a tough job.
Yes,
It
is.
is a very tough job.
At PEP, we believe farmers are one of those who are supposed to be well up in society. They're the ones who should be driving around with Mercedes-Benz and BMWs.
They are responsible for literally putting food
on the table. Correct. We look at farmers, teachers, another body that we believe should be in that position as well, because because again, it's about empowering our people and making sense of the nonsense in itself. Riyadh, I look forward in having a further discussion with you. I know that we're going to be touching again on the agriculture sector and different areas. I mean, off air, we would probably touch base and, if there's anything that you would like to have come onto the forefront, you certainly have a platform that you can have your voices heard, and we are here to listen and actually come up with an actual solution for those issues and problems that you're faced with. So I really appreciate the time that you've given us today and having this dialogue, and I do look forward, Felicia and I, for having you on the show, possibly in person would be nice.
Yes. I have a little baby home, so it's a little tough these days.
Bring the baby. I love babies.
Here, Felicia, say bring the baby.
Bring the baby, and she's adorable, so I will be playing with her during the break.
But certainly we extend great thanks to you, and we appreciate all the information that you're putting into the public space, and we are more than happy and willing to be working with you in forging our country forward and bringing a level of food independence for the nationals of Trinidad and Tobago. Plain and simple.
Thanks so much for having me, Anthony and Felicia. I really appreciate the forum this morning.
Riyadh, thank you very much for coming on, and again, we will definitely talk and follow up in person, because I believe, since I met you on Facebook and now speaking, I believe that you are one of the key people to push an agricultural revolution in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
Under the right government, I know that you can help us get to where we need to be. So stay the
Definitely.
course and keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks so much.
Take care.
Riyadh,
Bye-bye.
we'll talk. Have a good one, brother.
Take care.
All right.
We're going to go for a quick break right now. We still have some topics to discuss.
Yes.
In our Carnival wrap-up, ICCNT3 is running with a story that our political leader, Philip Alexander, was actually the first one to raise. Looks like the media is now playing catch-up with the PEP when we come back.
When we come back.
Science says that countries that have the greatest number of home ownership among families have the lowest levels of crime. Trinidad and Tobago has massive poverty, runaway crime, and an economy that makes no sense to anyone looking in from outside. We also suffer from the impact of corruption and narco-trafficking dollars being hidden in real estate, driving the prices up and drying up the supply. Banking in Trinidad and Tobago, unregulated, our mortgage system creates a scenario where the average house, the average home, by the time it is fully paid off, would have cost the homeowner twice and more the value initially paid. The government can impact home ownership, redevelop the family, end crime, and take Trinidad and Tobago to first world status simply by securing the nation's borders to end the drug trade and stuffing the containers on the port again to end the drug trade, to create a property tax system that calls for 0% tax on primary dwellings, a 5% tax on secondary homes, a 10% tax on third homes, 15% on fourth homes, and escalating until by the 10th house that you own is so onerous in taxes to keep that you have no choice but to sell it or pay full value of that house to the state every year. We need to do this to drive corruption dollars and drug dollars out of real estate and bring the prices back in reach with the average income, the average wage, the average salary. Trinbagonians do not get full value for their money, and that is a conversation we have to have. But when we're talking housing, to get the average person into their own home, it is a right and a privilege of the state to be able to offer to these people zero deposit, zero interest for up to 30 years on up to homes valued up to $1.5 million. This would reduce the mortgage payments to about $500 per $100,000. And if we remove the duties and the VATs and all of the taxes on all of the building materials and open the market to competition to drive the prices down, the cost of building the average 1,200 square foot starter home will not exceed $100,000. And with $500 a month as a mortgage payment, even minimum wage earners would be able to afford their own home. The numbers say that in countries where families own their own homes, crime is at its lowest. The Progressive Empowerment Party is very sure, in fact, we're certain, that of all the policies that we build our 21 policies on, home ownership is the most important of all the important ones. We propose zero deposit, zero interest for up to 30 years on homes up to $1.5 million. Normal bank lending criteria apply. In Trinidad and Tobago, no one policy has the greatest opportunity to impact upon the development of the society like home ownership. The Progressive Empowerment Party promises to make home ownership for all a central pillar in all of our economic development. I am Philip Edward Alexander, and this has been 3 Minutes to a Better Trinidad and Tobago.
We are back, and before we went on a break, I mentioned that the mainstream media, which has made every effort to block the Progressive Empowerment Party from its airwaves, is now playing catch up with us. And over the Carnival weekend, Philip Alexander would have put out a release on Carnival affecting mass bans affecting residential areas, a story which I see CNT3 has now carried
Taken up,
on.
yeah.
And I mean, in the beginning, people called that a non-issue and a petty thing, and I actually had to ask a man, so brother man, you say just like that, you would be okay with a random stranger coming on the wall of your property, whipping it out and peeing on your wall? Didn't respond, but I mean, that is the reality of what happens during Carnival time. Not to mention the noise pollution, not to mention the actual pollution, because driving up Carnival Monday after Juve, seeing the state of the residents, and I mean, it's unfair that because of where you are situated, which you cannot help, you are a victim of Carnival. Whereas Carnival can be moved to an area that does not impact residential people. And I mean, I don't know what it needs to take for NTC or those responsible, or TUC, or whoever is responsible, well, it should be in NTC, for the routes of mass bans to, I don't know what it would take for them to map out a route that does not impact people. I don't know if the Prime Minister himself needs to wake up one morning and smell pee on his wall or on his front lawn. But I'm not sure who has to be impacted for some change to be made. And I definitely agree with the residents. I mean, I am not one who is directly impacted, but I cannot begin to understand how it feels to not only not want to participate in Carnival, if that's your choice, but to be forced to deal with the aftermath of Carnival.
No, you're absolutely right.
Because of, poor planning on behalf of the bodies and
key thing you just said, poor planning. Key thing, poor planning. Again, we're in it's the year 2020. We have a clear idea and outline as to where our commercial areas are, where our residential areas are, and again, is it the Carnival Commission that lays the routes out? I mean, is there anyone that is able to really look at this and come up with a proper solution? Do we need to take it completely out of Port of Spain and put it into somewhere that really have no residential areas in that zone, or do we segregate it to Port of Spain in itself, being yes, it's the capital, yes, it's all commercialized, and it's literally on the city limits of Port of Spain in itself is where the residential areas begin. Who do we go to fine tune this? Because I think it's really unfair to the residents having to really deal with that, because I know for me, I would be appalled to know that I have people pissing on my front gate, on my fence, and the thing is,
like when dogs do it, humans.
and we're not talking one human, we're talking a period of a couple days, or even in fact over a week, because you have all these little fetes taking place all over the place, and people just come out of the car and just run to the side of the road and just whiz just like that, like it's nobody's business. It's I don't know, boy, it's absolutely crazy. And these are the same people that would not do that on Eastern Parkway in New York, in London, in Canada, in Miami. They're not going to stand on the side of the road and take a leak. Now the question is, do we have enough infrastructure in place, such as toilets and so on, along the routes to facilitate?
And that is the question, and that's a problem. I think if you have a mass ban, it should be an absolute law that you have a minimum of one or two, depending on the size of your ban.
The ban, exactly. You should have a PP truck. Plain and simple. That's one of the requirements, right there. But that is segregated to the bans. What about the regular people as spectators?
But again, and not just that, public restrooms. Anthony, when was the last time you saw a public restroom? I went to the Savannah, Queen's Park Savannah, to purchase food some weeks ago and really needed to pee, only to go to the bathroom and see that it is locked. And that is the case of a lot of our public restrooms. The one in Port of Spain on Independence Square, forever locked. And the question is, why have a public restroom if you're not going to maintain it? Because I'm sure the reason that it's locked is because
it's in a mess.
It's in a mess, or they're not able to maintain it on an ongoing basis. But public restrooms are essential to living and business spaces.
Correct.
You can't, especially around Carnival time, you can't have a big celebration like that and not have public restrooms, which brings up the point that Carnival should not ideally happen in residential areas, because residential areas will not have
that type of facilities
public
in
bathrooms.
place.
And again, to the residents of Woodbrook and even not Cascade, even some in Belmont, Lower Belmont, Birmingham Avenue there. For all of the residents who are impacted by Carnival negatively, a Progressive Empowerment Party government will ensure that a new route will be mapped out that does not impact you and your livelihood as a citizen.
And it would not even impact the actual routing of the Carnival celebration in itself. It's just a matter of really making sense of the nonsense, Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, we're just doing things blind over and over and over. We've had a couple instances or attempts in trying to redevelop the routes and so on, and even have these issues that residents are dealing with addressed. But have they been addressed? No, they have not. Basically a plaster on the sore, but not coming with real solutions, something that could be more in-depth and more solid in moving forward where the celebration and that period is concerned for Carnival. Again, I really, it makes me cringe to think of the environment that is left behind after each session, like Juve, for example. I saw a couple pictures, paint all over the road, mess all over the place. I mean, I don't know, boy. Is the system in itself systematically being able to deal with the problems? Because in my mind, I would think if you have a celebration taking place, have your litter wardens in full force from the beginning to the end, even after having to do your cleanup process. How about having vehicles that not just have the water but the scrubbers? I've seen those vehicles in New York that scrubs the roads, correct, and give you a proper clean. They have a huge vacuum cleaner in the back of them that sucks up any type of debris and that type of thing. And when it's passed and gone, you have a clean road right in front of you. How have we not invested in any type of machinery as such? I just have no idea. We have $60 billion budgets each year. Where is this money going? How is it being applied? How are we as citizens actually benefiting from that? That's simply the questions that we've been singing for the last 3 years, trying to figure out the nonsense that we're really faced with as citizens in Trinidad and Tobago. Because again, we have people who are holding public office, very important portfolios that are supposed to be there to bring a level of betterment. The only purpose of government really, in fact, is to bring betterment to the population. End of story, full stop. That's it. That's it. No government is there to be corrupt, to steal, to run racket, to make money for themselves. None of that. Your whole purpose in going into office is to bring betterment to the citizenry. And have we actually seen that over the decades? Forget about in recent time. I mean, look, 2020, we talk about a vision 2020 that the PNM had put.
Let's stick a pin in that, because we're moving into our last topic for the day. I can't believe it is already 7:45.
Is it?
It is 7:45, and the producer is like giving us a mean face in the back there, knocking at his watch saying time is passing.
Yes.
Because we don't have much time to discuss our last topic of the day, which is just this whole issue of the foreign exchange.
Oh, yes.
Problem that is plaguing us.
A video on that?
Yeah. So a political leader did a video, and I will say it's a part 2 video, because his first video that started this political movement, you would say, the Progressive Empowerment Party, was a video that he did on the foreshore that highlighted the number of cars that we had sitting down in the import lot. And he highlighted the fact that the cost of importing these cars, which you have to pay for in US, is you're literally looking at a parking lot filled with probably millions of US dollars. Whereas he just came from the bank frustrated, couldn't get US. And he did what would have been a part two, because the Chamber of Commerce put out a release yesterday, and they have finally, according to him, played catch up. Just like CNC3 is playing catch up with our news story, the Chamber of Commerce is finally playing catch up on the fact that small to medium businesses are having a difficult time accessing foreign exchange for their businesses, which is in fact impacting them. He did go down to the same lot that he went to on his first video, and it's again still full, and we're going to producer run the clip now so you can see what exactly he was speaking about.
Today the media carried some information from the Chamber of Commerce, who put out a notice that the foreign exchange crisis was causing a problem for small and middle-sized businesses in Trinidad and Tobago. And I said, finally, they've joined the conversation. Fantastic. The Chamber of Commerce is speaking up. Excellent. How is it that the average person cannot get US dollars to buy in the bank, but these people could get these hundreds of millions of US dollars to buy? Why is the central bank so silent on what is appearing to be a parallel economy in Trinidad and Tobago? The central bank governor has ultimate responsibility for the weight of the currency in the economy. And only that person would know if the weight of the currency issued differs with the transactions taking place. It is one of two things taking place in this country. It is either an unequal distribution of the existing foreign exchange of the country, or there is a parallel economy with foreign exchange currency running through Trinidad and Tobago, and the central bank governor and the minister of finance are the people to answer that. Now that the Chamber of Commerce has entered the conversation, I am calling on the central bank governor to explain in simple terms how the average person cannot access more than one, maybe 200 US dollars at a time, which is usually a week, 2 weeks. But we could watch hundreds of millions of US dollars being spent importing cars by companies that do no exports. Now, if this here and the profits on these cars are more important than paying school fees for our young people and importing medication for our citizens who are ill, then something is very wrong with this country.
So that video clip that you would have seen, which is just a small extract from the entire video, if you want to check it out, it's about 10 to 11 minutes long. It's on our Facebook page. But we cut out that particular clip because it does highlight exactly what we were speaking about, which is that we need explanations as to why the small average man cannot get US, why you have to line up every day for 100 or 200 US, or to be told to come back tomorrow. If you have to travel, you have to present your plane ticket a week or two in advance if you know you want to travel with a particular amount of cash or a sum of cash on you. Whereas other businesses, particularly the car import industry, and many others, don't seem to be having those problems.
I am a testament to that. I have had a business close on me due to that whole scenario of not being able to access US dollars or foreign currency, and I just think that is extremely unfair to small and middle-sized businesses. in being able to really help develop what it is that they are trying to do. It's wrong for me to have to go into a bank to stand there for an hour or two to get $100, and you have these corporate companies that's bringing in vehicles by the droves, by hundreds of millions of dollars worth. And at the end of the day, I mean, really and truly, this is cars that's coming into the country being used here. What export is it that we can show from these said companies that can encourage foreign currency coming into the country to begin with?
The question is how are they accessing that money? And in fact, what Philip said about a parallel economy has to be clearly happening. But not only is it obviously happening, but who is addressing it? And at this point, we want to open the phone lines.
Yes.
I know we have just under 8 minutes with you again. But we spoke and we covered a lot this morning. If you would like to call in and offer your opinion, join the conversation, you can call in on digital number 347-4737. I'll repeat, 347-4737 or
688-4012. That's 688-4012. Give us a call. Let's get your 2 cents on your take as to what you want to put into the public space here, what questions you may have to ask or what have you. We are running out of time though, so you might want to do that very quickly.
Yeah. Back to the foreign exchange issue that we are having right now, Anthony, and I was actually watching a documentary, a small documentary put out by James from 868 Media about the decline of small parlors and that industry that is actually evaporating right now in Trinidad and Tobago. And it's actually part of our culture, those parlors that you see
I saw that.
corner and all of that. But it is becoming increasingly expensive for these little parlors and tuck shops that I know them as, and small groceries to be operating when the bigger businesses can beat them in terms of price because they can import in bulk.
Yes.
Again, they have access to a market or a foreign exchange, obviously, that
the small man don't have access to. Very true. And that's a prime example. I love the fact that you brought that up. I actually had taken in that video, I think it was yesterday, and I have to say everything this man said was absolutely on the ball. Small business men or people are being pushed out of the sphere of things within society in itself. Everything is becoming corporate. It's all about a one-stop shop. Nobody says that you want to have a level of convenience. Yes, it's wonderful. It's all great and good. But in the same breath, we do still need to encourage small business people, medium-sized business people, because they play a very important role within society in itself. Having to be able to allow and help the circulation of currency passing through the system, being able to assist in empowering and employing people from the areas that they may be operating in, whether it be in a small town or a village or what have you, because you don't have a super farm or a Massey stores that would be in a small village. You're going to find that within a city limits of sorts or a very well developed area. So again, it's no way, form or fashion us having to take the stance and trying to push the small businessman out of business. In fact, we should be trying to help develop the small businessman, help bring investment towards them, as well as if they have need for foreign exchange, to be able to address that as well. Having a case like myself, having to close down a business altogether because I could not access a foreign currency. I mean, we should not make that a trend across the board, and it's been going on for way too long, and it's becoming very, very critical for our young and small business people right now on the ground here in Trinidad and Tobago.
Massey Stores Limited has reported $167 million
first quarter
after tax for the first quarter of 2020.
Yeah, those numbers. Call that number again.
$167 million profit post-tax.
$167 million.
First quarter of 2020.
First quarter.
Big businesses are booming.
Big businesses are booming.
Banks are recording profits. We just missed a call. If you missed us, you can feel free to call back. But big businesses are doing fairly well, and the small man is literally being evaporated.
Yeah.
And some people may call this progress. I look at this as the price of progress, because I don't see how it's progress if we have corporate entities doing well, but the small man
the suffering. Yeah.
And that disparity in Trinidad and Tobago, we are creating our own
demise.
We are, because the gap between those who have and those who don't have, the have and the have-nots, is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And instead of fixing the gap, what we're doing, we're getting the big man to give the small man a loan of his money. Here, you want some?
Yeah.
You want to play mass?
Yeah.
No, let's not make things so that you're earning enough money.
Gosh.
I think we're getting a call.
All right, let me see here. Hello, good morning.
Hi, morning. This is a PP program.
Yes, Pep Talks in the morning. You're live on air. Welcome.
I was looking at your program before while it was going on.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the old guy with the dealing with the agriculture aspect of things.
Right.
And I think in terms of the people who actually, we are supporting the big businesses, rather than doing that at the supermarkets. And so we have a lot of local markets. And it's not so much that the people do not produce things, We don't support purchasing them. We talk about Neil and Massey stores making millions of dollars every quarter and so on. But we are the people who actually go into the market and purchase things that could be purchased from our local, as you say, Patik or local people in Trinidad and Tobago. So maybe the whole process of getting people involved in more of purchasing from the local people and the markets and so on. But the state of the markets as well is an issue, because people who go to the supermarkets to buy same things like five and tomatoes and all that kind of thing, they purchase it's much cheaper the local market. But have you ever visited the markets in the central market?
Yeah, it's appalling. It's nasty. Yes.
You can't go in the washroom facilities. There's no parking. So it's not that people, and that is where the revolution has to begin in the whole agricultural sector.
I like that.
The whole process of how it is taking place, and we, rather than wait on developing markets outside, if you can't fix your inside, then you can't fix nothing outside.
Well said, well said.
And it should be dependent upon the whole process of us as families. It's a social problem. It's not an economic problem. The problem, the solution lies within the people who can say, here what, we are not going to buy in those supermarkets. In the first place, the kind of things they sell there, hydrates and silicates and nitrates, and you're killing yourself. You literally going to eat poison when you could go to the market.
And you're absolutely. I like that. I like that point that you brought up. We're not going to dictate to people. People do have the right of choice as to what they would want and consume. But in itself, too, you are right in the point of saying we, the people itself, have to be able to support our smaller guys, our small farmers, and so on. But in the same sense, the system in itself needs to have a environment that is more appealing to, because like you said, when you look at the localized markets and stuff, whether it be in Central or Port of Spain or South or in the East or where have you, they are very much deplorable and not in a state that anybody would be so happy to be walking through, whereas you'd feel a lot more comfortable going through a Massey store, for example, because it's clean, it's plush, and it gives you that feel, you know what I mean, where again it's all a psychological thing as well, but what you've said is very much noted, and I think that you're on the right track where what you're saying there, but I do believe that there's a lot more development that has to take place on both spectrums, as far as, because we're not in the business of wanting to close down the corporate sector. We do want to empower them.
What you say, it's not about closing down, but the thing is, if we are starting in a new direction, the people who are the poor people, you're saying that they need to be sharing in the whole concept of the wealth of the nation.
Yeah.
So we have to start it,
Correct, correct. Well, again, we're out of time, so I greatly appreciate your input. Look out for the show, and maybe you can give a call in again on a future show, and we will be touching back on this topic in a few days, if not weeks to come. So you have a great one. Thanks for the call.
I want to disagree with him on one point. I mean, I love the points that he made, but there is an economic aspect to it. The fact is, a lot of these small businesses, because they have so much higher costs that are associated
It's harder
with
for them too.
it's harder for them
Yeah.
to do things like renovate and upgrade. In terms of the market, that is all the responsible of the government, in my opinion, to
Very
make
true.
sure that these facilities are clean, maintained, and presentable so that people can actually want to shop there. We are, like you said, completely out of time. This program was so packed, so
Yes.
filled this morning. Please join us again tomorrow. Everything that we didn't discuss today, we will be touching on. And if you want to bring up any topics of your own, you can call into the program. This has been Pep Talks. Thank you so much for tuning in on a not Carnival Thursday, but the
Yeah, you're still going back to Carnival. Listen,
but 2 days
Stop it,
after the
Felicia.
Carnival. Trinidad and Tobago, we will be back tomorrow to enjoy the rest of your day.
Have a good one, Trinidad and Tobago.
Trinidad and Tobago is in a crisis. For far too long, our people have been abused and silenced by our politicians and the business elite.
Just look around you. People are losing their jobs. Crime is at an all-time high. Our justice, education, and health systems have failed.
We all know the truth behind all that is wrong in our country. Corruption is destroying us. Billions of our dollars are being looted by a small group of business people that use our politicians to divide and distract us,
so they can take what they want, leaving us with no hope for a better country.
All of this is because we've never had leaders who seek the interests of the citizenry as their first priority.
I am here because I'm not taking it anymore.
I am here because I am not taking it anymore.
I am fed up of politics as it is in Trinidad and Tobago.
It is time we elect leaders with the backbone and the love of our people to go after the corrupt, evil elements in our country, hell-bent on serving their own pockets while we suffer.
And it is time that we as a nation take a collective stand against wrongdoing.
So we are making a plea to the nation to rally behind us.
Because our freedom of speech is being threatened by those who don't want us speaking out on these issues.
A man that I greatly respect is one of those leaders fighting for a better country. His name is Philip Edward Alexander, and he has bravely challenged the people and institutions that are destroying our nation.
To date, he has been threatened with 5 lawsuits for having the courage to ask state agency UDCOT on why the renovations of the President's house cost $89 million.
When experts in the field have estimated that that job should have never crossed 20 million.
Where did the rest of our money go?
We refuse to stand by and allow any agency to use our courts to try and silence and punish Philip or any other citizen of our country for trying to seek the truth.
If you're fed up of corruption and want to be a part of real change, support Philip and the Progressive Empowerment Party in this fight.
This fight is not for him or us to bear alone.
It is a fight for you, our loved ones, and our friends.
It is a fight for the future of our country.
You can help by making a contribution to Philip's legal fees and help him and PEP expose the truth and shine light over the darkness of corruption.
Go to our website at peptt.com, click on donate and see all the ways you can pitch in.
There is hope. Our country can be saved, but we all need to stand together. My name is Felicia Holder, Chairman of the Progressive Empowerment Party, and I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support. I support.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.